In this video, I'm going to tell you how to make cold calling easier than scrolling YouTube. Okay, maybe that's a little bit of clickbait. However, in this video, what I will share is 5 things that helped me go from someone who absolutely hated cold calling, who would wake up in the middle of the night, my heart would be beating just at the thought that I had to cold call the next day. My palms would be sweating. The second I actually pick up the phone to make the call, it's almost like I couldn't breathe anymore. My chest would go tight. I know exactly how it feels. But I've gone from that to someone who, if you check out my recent cold calling video, actually has quite a bit of fun making those calls now. Like, I don't really care what people think anymore. I don't really fear rejection anymore. And I genuinely have fun making cold calls. Let's get straight into the first of the 5 things that helped me make cold calling fun. So, the first thing I'm going to share today was an absolute game changer for me. And to explain how effective it is, I'm going to give you an analogy. So imagine you're at the dinner table and you have dessert waiting for you, but you also have salad. And you have to eat both of those things. Like, if you don't, you die. Let's just make it very extreme. The best way to do that isn't to eat the dessert first and then be left with the salad, because that just leaves a bitter taste in your mouth. Excuse the pun. The best thing to do is to just eat the salad, get out of the way, and then you can just have the dessert afterwards. Which is why the first thing I'm going to share today is take boring breaks. And what I mean by that is, before you start cold calling, do not scroll on TikTok or Instagram. Do not eat junk food. God forbid you watch pornography or anything like that, because all of these things, they stimulate you. So you eat your dessert fast, and then when you have to eat the salad, it's way more painful. Like, what you need to understand is our brains would do almost anything to avoid discomfort. However, there's one thing our brain hates even more than discomfort, and that's boredom. Our brain constantly wants to be stimulated, constantly wants inputs, wants noise, wants to be scrolling, wants dopamine. So if you restrict the amount of fun and dopamine that your brain gets before cold calling, then guess what? You're just going to be agitated. Like, have you ever just stared at a wall for like 5 minutes? If you haven't, just give it a go. What you'll realize is, after the 2 minute mark, you just start to get agitated. You're like, oh, I should be doing something. I should be doing something. This is dead. Once you get to the 5 minute mark, you're like, please, just anything to get me away from this boredom. And guess what? Cold calling is easier than being bored. So if you just take time to be bored and do nothing before your calls, and then you pick up the phone, it's way easier than you've already given your brain all this pleasure and then you have to take it from a state of pleasure to a state of pain. That's way more difficult. And the same is true when you're taking a break. So let's say you do a few calls and then you want to take a break. Don't start scrolling or doing something fun during the break, because if you take your brain back into fun mode, then guess what? When you have to go back to pain mode, it's gonna be a lot more difficult. So when you take a break from calling, just do nothing. Just do nothing. Give your brain time to just think, to process things, learn from your calls. Okay, what could I have done better in that cold calling block? Okay, what can I learn from it? Just process your thoughts until the point where your brain is bored. And then when you're bored, guess what? Your brain wants to do something, and then make cold calling that thing. It's such a simple hack, but it's been so effective for me. Just waking up and not doing anything fun till I've done my cold calling, not eating my dessert until I've had my vegetables. So, yeah, to summarize, being bored more and cutting out stimulation made cold calling way easier for me, which actually links to the second thing that made cold calling way easier, which is, do not eat anything, especially carbohydrates, before cold calling. And the reason for this is, when you eat high carbs, you have something called a crash. Like, you probably experienced it yourself. You eat a big bowl of pasta, and then an hour later, you're just slumped. You just want to have a nap. You're tired. Trying to cold call in that state is extremely difficult. And this is something I used to do. I would eat this big meal, and then it's like, oh, I have to cold cool, and then I'll be sat on my chair and I'll just be slumped, and I'll be thinking, oh, I really have to cold cool, man. I can't be bothered. I'll just do it tomorrow. That's why you want to do cold calling on an empty stomach if possible. Now, I've actually stopped doing this but that's more because I'm trying to build some muscle, people. I'm trying to gain weight. So I can't be intermittent fasting as long as I used to because it was impacting my muscle gains. However, what I've realized is if I eat high protein, I don't have the same crash that carbohydrates gives me. And you might notice you also have like brain fog. Your mind just feels foggy. And again, trying to cold call in that state is so difficult because when someone picks up, you're thinking, oh yeah, yeah, hello, hello, who is this? Like, you even forget why you're doing it, what you're doing. Your brain's just mad foggy. Whereas if you just eat high protein or you just eat nothing, your mind is just laser focused. You know what you're doing, you know why you're doing it, and that comes across to a prospect on a call because they just feel your clarity. And clarity is the most important thing when it comes to converting people. If someone is confused, they're never, ever, ever going to buy from you. Like, it might be the best offer in the world, but if the prospect is confused, they will never buy. And I've experienced this myself. Whereas when it's just clear, like, this is how we help, this is who we help, this is why it's relevant to you, they're way more likely to at least engage in a conversation. So that's why I try to either eat nothing before my cold calling block, or I try to just eat high protein, no carbs. So I'll just have 4 eggs maybe and just have no carbs before my cold calling. Because again, if you're eating high carbs, you're going to crash. And if you crash, cold calling becomes way more difficult. So the third thing that makes cold calling way easier is what I like to call the 5 call rule. And to explain just how effective this is, let me give you another example. What sounds easier to you? Running 5 kilometers 20 times or running 100 kilometers? Probably running 5 kilometers 20 times. Like for me, I've run 5 kilometers so many times in my life, so it doesn't sound that bad. Doing it 20 times, yeah, obviously that's long. It's not easy, but it sounds way easier than doing 100 kilometers. Like that just sounds like a massive mountain to climb. I've never done anything not even near that. And it's the exact same thing with calling. If you tell your mind, oh, we're gonna do 100 calls today, especially if you're just starting out, your mind's just gonna get overwhelmed. It's gonna be 100 calls, like that's so many. But if you just tell your mind, look, we're just gonna do 5 calls 20 times, doesn't seem as bad. And then if you just tell your man, look, we're just gonna do 5 calls, full stop, then that doesn't seem near as bad. That doesn't make it easy, but it makes it way easier than doing 100 calls in a day. And this is like a trick I always use on my mind because again, my mind, some days I wake up and I'm like, I just don't want to call. And the thought of trying to do 20, let alone 100 calls, it just seems like a mission impossible. But doing 5 calls, even in a state where I'm like, I just can't be bothered, doesn't seem that bad. And it seems like something I can just get out of the way. But why this is such a powerful hack is once you do 5 calls, I've never actually stopped afterwards because the first 5 calls are always the hardest of the day because you're rusty, you're not in the flow state, you've built no momentum, your mind just giving you every possible excuse. But once you've done the first 5 calls, you're like, it wasn't actually that bad because it's not actually that bad. And then it's like, yeah, I can just keep going. And this is something I always do with myself. I'll be like, look, I'm just gonna do 5 calls today and then I'm gonna log off. Like if you do your 5 calls and you wanna go do absolutely nothing for the rest of the day, go ahead. But every time I do the 5 calls and I get to the fifth one, I'm like, I might as well do 5 more. Because either I booked a meeting, so I'm like, oh snap, I'm one conversation away from another meeting, which could be more money, which could be a life-changing opportunity, which that is the truth about cold calling. You're one conversation away from changing your life forever, which that mindset shift alone is so powerful and gets me to pick up the phone on those days where I don't really feel like it. But more than that, let's say you've got 5 rejections, you just realize, is that the worst that can happen? Like 5 people said no, but yeah, I might as well just keep going. So that's like another game changing hack for me. It's just the 5 call rule. I'm just gonna do 5 calls to them. Once I get to the fifth call, okay, I'm just going to do 5 more. And before you know it, you've done 20, 30, 40, 50 calls in one day. And if you do 50 calls a day, it's almost impossible you don't grow your business. Like, it's almost impossible you don't get a lot better. And if you get better, it's almost impossible you don't close clients. And if you close clients, you make money. So the fourth thing that makes cold calling easier than scrolling YouTube, okay, maybe not easier than scrolling YouTube, but it makes it way easier, is recording yourself. And the reason recording makes cold calling way easier is number one, it gives you accountability. You have to do a certain amount of calls to make a video. Like, I'm not just gonna post a video with one call in the video. So it forces me to do a certain amount to actually make enough calls to make good content. But number two, it makes it way more entertaining, because before I would just be slumped over in my room like this, like, oh, hi John, and then John would reject me, and then I'll be thinking, oh no, I'm such a failure, and like, I'm doing so bad. But when you record yourself, other people going on the journey with you. That's how it feels. You've got the camera in front of you, and it just feels like you're not on the journey alone. And it's a win-win. If you get absolutely rejected and cooked, you get good content. And if you book meetings, you get meetings. So either way, you're winning. And ever since I committed to posting at least one cold calling video a week, those days where I just don't feel like doing it, I've made a commitment to myself, and I've made a commitment to you as the viewer. It forces me to actually go ahead and make the calls, even when I don't feel like it. Like, a lot of my videos, I might be smiling and having a good time, but deep down at the start of the video, I really did not want to record. And it might take me maybe half an hour, maybe 2 hours sometimes, just to get into the right frame of mind to actually start calling. But yeah, even if you don't want to post on YouTube, I do recommend posting the videos, because then you get to build a personal brand. You get to document your journey. You can go back. Sometimes I go back to my old videos. I can see how far I've come. I can see things I can improve. But even if you don't want to post and build a personal brand, maybe you're a private guy, you don't really want your face out there, just record for your own benefit. Because by you having the video, you can go back and see how you can improve your cold calling. And that's the biggest thing. Like, cold calling becomes a lot easier when you get better. Just like anything in life. When you get better, it gets easier. And the fastest way to get better at cold calling is number one, actually doing it and picking up the phone. You're not going to get better by watching content. And number two, by watching back your videos and saying, okay, I should have asked him that question there. I could have handled that objection better there. And then once you do that, you get a feedback loop. And over time, you're just getting better. And as you get better, it gets easier. So recording is just such a hack. Like, even that time I got racially abused in one of my videos. Check out my recent cold calling video. It was crazy. A lot happened in that video. But I learned a lot from that video. And if I was by myself, sat in my room, and some of those things happened, I would have felt way worse than the fact that I was on camera and it made good content. So, yeah, that's one of the biggest things. It's just record yourself. It makes it more fun. It makes it more of a hobby. You actually get to have a good time cold calling. And yeah, the accountability is priceless, which actually brings me on to the fifth and final thing, which I think is probably the most valuable and the biggest shift that happened for me to make cold calling become easier. So the fifth and arguably biggest thing that makes cold calling way easier, and it links to number four, but it's doing it with people. Like, when I started, I was doing it by myself in my room, and it just felt terrible, man. But when I think of like the best cold calls I've ever had, I think of one where I cold called a guy, I made £1,000 from a website. I think of another time where I think I booked 6 meetings in one session. Like, these two times, what they both had in common is I wasn't doing it by myself. The first time I was on a random Google Meet with one of my friends. We were just having a good time. It was almost a competition between us. And when you're competitive, obviously you want to do well, you want to impress your friend, but you also want to do better than your friend. It's friendly competition. It just pushes you to another level. So now you're not thinking about, what if I get rejected? You're thinking about, how can I book a meeting here? Which just shifts your mindset. And the other time I was on a Google Meet with my business partner, and we were both just cold calling together. And just the fact you're doing it with someone else, so you're not alone, makes it infinitely easier, because when you get rejected, you can just laugh it off. When someone says, no, mate, you're a scammer, like, when you're by yourself, you might actually feel that personally. You're like, oh, I'm not actually a scammer. I promise I'm not a scammer. I'm trying to help you. But when you're doing it with your mates and someone says, yeah, you're a scammer, after the call, you're both laughing. Like, you're a scammer, mate. Like, it's the funniest thing ever. So doing it with people is just the biggest hack and the biggest advice I can give to anyone. Just don't do it alone. Either record yourself or do it with friends, or both. because doing it by yourself, sat in your room, your curtains aren't even pulled, you're trying to do this perfect script, you're putting so much pressure on yourself. It's just a horrible way to do it, and it just makes it way harder than it needs to be. Whereas if you're just with your mates and you're just having a laugh, and okay, first do 100 calls wins, and the other person has to buy them dinner. Just do little things to make it fun and make it a game. Just gamify life. Like, life doesn't actually have to be that serious. You don't have to be sat there with this spreadsheet like, I need to do my 20 calls and tick them all off. You can have a good time, man. Like, just do it with your mates. Have a laugh. You both get better. You both learn the skill. And yeah, it creates memories, man. Which brings me on to the final thing I want to say in this video. I'm actually thinking of starting a community because I've had a lot of people message me from this channel saying, bro, I love the fact you're doing cold calling, let's connect. To the point where now I've got like 20 different people who are all into online business. We're all starting out, we're all scaling our agencies. I'm thinking of starting a community. And I just want to see if there's demand for that. So if you would want to be part of a community where we can just share lessons that we're learning while we're scaling, we can do cold calling together, and we can just have a good time, like just make business and life more fun, because it doesn't have to be that serious, it doesn't have to be that deep. Just comment down below, and if I get enough comments, if see enough demand, I will supply. That's just how it works. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Check out my recent cold calling video if you haven't already. I think that alone will show you how much fun I'm now having cold calling, and will show you that it actually is possible. Cold calling doesn't have to be this terrible, painful thing. Like, you can actually have a good time and just have a good laugh while you're doing that. So check out my recent cold calling video if you haven't already, and if you're interested in being part of the community, just comment down below, comment the word join or something like that. And if I see that comment enough times down below, then I will deliver. I will start the community, and we can all scale to the moon together. Road to 100K a month, man. That's what it's about. But anyway, I hope this video was helpful. And yeah, if you have any thoughts on the things I shared, if any of them helped, or any other things have helped you, please drop them down below in the comments. But have a wonderful rest of your day. Enjoy the sunshine, and have a good one, my people.